We are live, and welcome and good morning. We have two legendary women on the show today, so buckle up. But also, we have a video from a couple of years ago, and this is on engaging and selling more cars. If you don't know CarNow, this is the CEO of CarNow. He's been on the show a couple times. So this is a clip, but I'll share the link below for the full interview if you want to check it out. And here we go.
I'm bragging on our team here, but to Nick's point, word of mouth, a little bit of Nick and James at the same time. When we started out, the sales department was me, and it was my bag and my little Mac, because we had no money in the bank. And the one word that allowed us to grow, I mean, we bragging on our team here, we hit 4,000 dealers before we even had a marketing department or hired a marketing department. And there's one word that we live by, and we serve our dealers. Our team, that's why our support team, there's almost 90 people just in our support team, which is well over almost 4 times as many people that our sales team. Because if I can't, we serve our people. And they went to 20 groups, and they went and they got around, and we never ought to time, and people ask, now that we've had that growth, we go on podcasts like this, and people say, well, how did you possibly grow? They say we're the fastest growing software company in automotive. Whether that's true, I don't know, but it's a very short interview. It's one word. It's serve. Our team does not work for me. I work for them. We serve, and by serving them, they serve our dealers. And look, we don't get it right a lot, but some of our best relationships through the years have been when we've screwed up, because it's all hands on deck to make that right. And again, to steal another thing from James that he just said, I've used that hundreds, probably thousands of times. Listen, if we don't raise your ROI, there's nothing worse, because I sat behind the desk for 2 decades, and not calling out vendors, but vendors would come in and say, man, you crushed it last month. Well, and then they give you their self-generated report. And I'm like, wait a minute, I sold 285. Now I sold, tell me how I crushed it. Well, your BDP, stop! How many cars did I sell? And by paying you, did that increase? Just cut to the chase. So we've taken that road, and again, not perfect, learning, but if you sign up, you know that we are going to have a culture of servanthood, and we are going to absolutely serve our dealers.
And that's part of it. It's a pretty spicy group on that show, and I believe this is from like 2 years ago, but it's still true. And if you don't know CarNow, they're one of the bigger companies in auto, and have been around for a while. But to take his point, you don't need a massive budget. You just need to go out there and get her done, and it's about customers. But anyway, here we go.
Life is about connection. Having a support system to lean on.
Oh, here comes trouble.
And roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
One of the really nice things about Larry, one of the reasons that we brought him to our dealership, is he's still very much aligned with our core values and with our brand, which is thoughtful and professional service. And because that alignment really worked out well, because he's so committed to the success of others, we really knew that he was the right person to spend time with our sales team, with our managers and each sales consultant. And we're just really thrilled to have a partnership with him. And so we thank him.
How do you adventure? Is it fast? Is it free? Is it clear? Is it rugged? Is it remote? For your next adventure, trust MotorClose for buying, selling, trading, and protecting all of your motorized assets. Powered by Disclosed Dealership Management Dashboard, your all-in-one DMS, CRM, menu, lead gen, inventory, staff, client, and deal management solution. Disclosed DMD, like a DMS, only better. Mention promo code AutoHub 2025 to get special pricing, including waive setup costs, no contract, and your first month's free.
Car dealers often underestimate the power of social media. Are you wondering why my face is plastered in your newsfeed? Are you a GM, dealer principal, or a manager in a car dealership wondering why you see me all the time on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and all over social media? Well, that didn't happen by chance. I target car dealers that are in-market shoppers for social media services, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for you so that you target in-market shoppers for your brand of customers that purchase your vehicles. During my Viato days, helping car dealers appraise and price cars, everyone was asking me, what do I do on social media? What do I do with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? And this was back in 2016. So here we are 10 years later. I started a company, became an entrepreneur, and now I help car dealers. They either outsource their social media needs to us, or we have a training and education center where we can teach all of your employees how to do social media in-house. 90% of consumers actually follow a business on Instagram. The average adult sits on TikTok for 2 hours a day in the rabbit hole. To learn more information about it or to get a demo from one of my sales associates, click the link below. We would absolutely love to help you.
All right, and good morning. And we have two really strong women. Larry was on there for a sec, but I think he was in a car, so he'll probably drop back in just to, make things interesting. So obviously we're doing a show today on CRMs and F&I. So we have two of the strongest women I know in auto. Becky couldn't make it because she was in a dealership, just so you know. And Troy is a little hard on Mondays from CDK. One of our sponsors, and of course, Brandy's on one of our sponsors as well. But let's start with Kim, since Kim was on first. And if you don't know Kim, she's from Buy It Smart, Sell It Smart. If you want a spicy interview, we did one at Used Car Week on Subprime. What was it, about 3 years ago? And they'd never done a Subprime panel at Used Car Week. And they were like, really? There's Subprime in Canada? And we're like, yeah. And they were like shocked how much of it was. So Kim, maybe just tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you are, and maybe give us an update on the subprime landscape.
Yep, Kim McPherson. Thanks for having me on the Auto Hub show. It's one of my regulars. Really enjoy it. Always good. So thanks, Ian. Yeah. And basically, I've been helping dealers set up and optimize their non-prime business since 2005, and it is not getting better. It's getting worse. It's getting better for me. It's not necessarily getting better for our credit in this country, which is a huge opportunity for dealers that know how to, I call it the finance first method, to offer their customers the ability to be able to buy a vehicle traditional way or buy a vehicle in the finance first method. So that's what I help dealers do, whether it be helping them generate leads, helping them with the training, marketing, and of course managing their lead management program that we offer also. Fantastic.
And then I have Brandy, who's also a very strong woman in automotive. So it's going to be a very interesting show. Tell us more about Disclose, I think is how you pronounce it, but more importantly, your background and what you think on the CRM and F&I side in auto these days, and you also in other areas.
To be on with Kim, that's for sure. You are a legend. I love this. It's gonna be a great show. I have been in auto and asset financing since I was 18 years old. So I have sat in the business office since I was 18. I have shared my experience comes from a variety of lending as well as business office. So, and Kim, you'd recognize the name. I was a credit manager for AmeriCredit, probably about the same time you were starting up the non-prime side. I was a buyer for CarFinco in 1999 to 2000. I opened up Alberta for travelers, so lots of subprime experience, lots of prime experience sitting in the business office. CRMs, in my opinion, especially in relation to F&I, are sadly underutilized. Really, everything that we should be looking at right now is relationships, not automating relationships as much as we are looking forward to doing so. I feel like F&I of all departments are the one department that isn't using a CRM enough. And I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to say and really kind of how that aligns, especially not only prime, but in the subprime world. It's all important.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because I was seeing some articles last week on sort of the default for buyers and owners of vehicles who are saying, hey, I can't afford these payments. And those numbers in the US and I'm sure in Canada are increasing. But Kim, maybe you can give us an update on like what the percentages are like these days. I know a couple of years ago, I think the number was, memory serves me, it was like 25%. Was that correct?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of numbers floating around. Pre-COVID, we would probably anticipate in the maritime provinces about 40% of the shoppers that call, click, or walk into a dealership may not qualify for the dealership's advertised rate, terms, and incentives. So, less than perfect credit. And then the process that we utilize to deal with a less than perfect credit customer, as in sell the vehicle to a less than perfect credit customer, is the same if the customer is deep subprime or unbankable versus maybe almost prime, just some issues, not sure where their budget is, that kind of. So I run with a 40% right now. I think we're going to find that the lenders are going to come out here soon and start telling us it's a lot more aggressive than that. 20% right now, I'm working with the Bruce Auto Group in the Maritimes. There's 11 dealerships. And their target is to get to 20% of their overall retail business, which I think is going to be no problem at all. And that's about where we land. When we're working with a dealer, if they're starting from zero, if we can get their business to between 20 to 25% in the first 6 months or so, then we'll be pretty excited about that. 25% of their business is non-prime.
Fantastic. Well, Brandy, I guess I was going to ask you a question around motorsports and other things because you're not just auto, you do all kinds of things. When you look at CRM and F&I, which is the topic of the show, where do you see that sort of misstep for the dealers in those different verticals?
So it is interesting, actually. The different assets besides auto, RV, power sports, heavy equipment, farming, we have a reach for all of those. So our DMS and CRM does allow for all assets. The reach there, I would say, is especially different because for a very long time, we didn't have lenders in the non-auto asset worlds that would actually accommodate on the subprime side. Anything with those assets, though, I really find, and I mean no disrespect, but they are very far behind the auto world. Even as I go to dealers and talk about our system, they call themselves the dinosaurs. I'm a dinosaur. You're not going to get me switched over. And so I think the uptake in recognizing the value of CRM is so delayed. And here, just to clarify, I love CRMs. I hate entering. So funny enough, my counterpart that works with us and does internal support, Jody, she came from Vin Solutions. And so she did a little bit of sales herself. And so we got on the method of kind of putting your note in a group chat and verbalizing it so you could update your CRM later. And she was Vin Solutions for 5 years. And even she admitted, she's like, oh my God, I got behind on the notes. And so we're asking an extra task, we're giving extra duties for the sake of knowledge. And so it is a tough push on any asset, let alone the ones that are a little bit behind auto. But the value there is so important. It's underutilized, and especially what Kim's talking about, when you have somebody and if you actually intend to hold on to your customer and watch them through their process, CRM is so valuable in helping them understand where they started, where they went from, and where they're going to. And that I can't stress enough. I'm sure you can totally agree, Kim. If you're going to actually help and coach a client back to Prime, it's so important.
So you mean data entry is not a good plan for a salesperson? You know, they're not real good at that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's funny enough, crazy, right? And like I say, I love CRM, I love data, and I hate entering.
So Kim, what do you think on the you're looking at F&I process, you're looking at CRMs. Obviously, you have experience probably with a few of them. You know, what's your feel in there? I mean, obviously, data entry for salespeople probably a disaster. Having worked at dealerships.
I had been for many years trying to find a coaching tool that and had a CRM created for me specifically in non-prime that was really meant to just be a coaching tool and has turned into a full-on CRM that we now really push the course content online through the CRM, and then I can get in there and just like Brandy's saying, I can help coach the customer along or I'm coaching the process along either with a sales manager or the sales professional. But I totally agree with Brandy. The hardest part and the CRM that I use doesn't necessarily need the updates of the notes necessarily specifically because it's in real time. So they're talking to the customer, they're communicating, they're calling, texting, emailing, sending, whatever, and I can see it. And it's a lot of pushing the customer along. So, but without it, I think what's really important, and sometimes a lot of times gets missed, especially with our finance managers, is that we talk about this word accountability. And really what I like to say to finance managers is yes, it's accountability, but it's a time saver. So when your sales manager, the finance manager, all these people in the dealership, especially with non-prime, that don't understand how that process necessarily works, they're thinking of it from the prime perspective. And they're always like, hey, what's going on? Knock on the door. What's going on with Joe Smith? You know what I mean? Joe Smith, when was that? Like three months ago. Whatever happened with that deal, Joe Smith? You know what I mean? You're just like, oh my God, I don't know how you don't function without a CRM, because that is never going to stop. Sales managers are constantly going to be doing that. The boss is constantly going to be asking what's going on with those deals, because they see the green button in dealer track, right? Oh, you got an approval for Joe Smith 3 months ago. What happened to that deal? So the CRM is a lot different than using a DMS system or something like that. You really got to stay on top of the deal, especially in non-prime, in the minute that it's happening, because you're dealing with exponentially more leads finance first than you're dealing with in the prime or the traditional approach, which the finance manager used to using that deal being a sold deal. And so we're managing the lead over here in prime when it's sold and it's a deal, as long as you can get them approved. And in non-prime, we're managing the customer long before there's a sold unit or a deal. So CRM and non-prime is like, if you don't have it, get out of non-prime. You shouldn't be in non-prime if you don't have a CRM, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I have a finance manager friend, and she just moved, and she's working for a dealer group. I think they're part of CMA now in Virginia. And she had a little bit of a rude awakening as she had to move into a U.S. finance office with compliance and a bunch of other things. And I said, well, yeah, you don't want to get sued. Like, you got to present every single freaking time, and you probably want it on videotape. Why? Because, people will sue you because you didn't try and sell them something. And to your point on the subprime side, I mean, I worked with stores years ago that had 40, 50% subprime. I even worked with stores that's all they did in Boston and other markets. But when you look at that 25% number that we were talking about years ago, and dealers aren't even paying attention to that at all, I think you're probably going to see an increase in that moving forward. But if you're not tracking that lead, and I remember working with, I think it was a Pioneer Group years ago when I sold subprime leads to dealers, they were hoping to get 7% rolling and burning gas of the leads they bought. And they bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of leads a month. Like it was like 97%. Yeah, we're not going to get those people.
Well, to give you an idea, right here with this franchise group of 11, they just started 2 months ago in non-prime from 0%, and are sitting at 10% already, no marketing.
Yeah.
So non-prime is massive.
So, and that's actually, you guys both bring up something interesting, is because how many, Ian, you talked about them wanting a 7% return. Well, I'd be curious, Kim, how, like, your return is only as good as you're mining your data, right? And so if you aren't following up with your customers, if you aren't using that CRM, you could probably expect 2 to 4%. If you are, Kim, you would probably know what kind of return does using a CRM truly actually show a dealership once they're engaged?
Oh man, like first of all, it's almost like replacing the word accountability with freedom. It's like, I don't know, I can put a number on it or a percentage on it, but the amount of time that we waste talking about deals that are already dead or non-existent anymore, or rehashing and going through it, when had we have just tracked it, if we had just tracked the conversation with the customer from the beginning and updated the note, like the amount of times that I have to have a conversation with very seasoned salespeople, sales managers, and finance managers to say, a deal is either marked lost or sold, lost with a reason or sold. Like it just doesn't flounder for, till forever. It's like, well, we constantly have this database of leads that we're working. No, you're not working them. This is probably a dead deal. Let's take a look at the lead, figure out where it's at in the sales process, and what's the roadblock holding you up from closing that deal today. And if there's something we can do to get over it, let's get over it. It's like the old days of buy or die. That's basically what a CRM does. Customers aren't coming back 3 weeks from now. They're going to buy a car. So let's figure out how do we, a CRM.
I think what's so important, what you're talking about especially, is the fact that if you can actually mine your customer, are they going to buy today if they're subprime? Possibly not. They might be too buried. Whatever the factor is, the advance, the vehicle they're choosing, etc. But how you mine that person when they're not in the hot seat, how you continue to market to them, how you continue to give them that message, like exactly what Ian said. You have so many sales managers that come in, it's the end of the month and they're digging for their last deal that they know there was a pulse there, and that was probably 60 days ago, and it's in some box under a credenza, and it, one of the things we did in our system is that we actually, right on your dashboard, it highlights your cancel deals, so that hey, if you want to inspect what you expect, you have to have the tools to do so, right? Oh, and so how can I, to be chasing it without that direction is almost asinine.
Yeah, when I worked for Nissan Canada, and I worked with the finance departments and the sales department and the service department and products in finance, what always used to amaze me in the Alberta market specifically, even though I managed all of Western Canada, was the dealers that would complain about the fact that Go Automotive was getting all these deals approved. And I said to them, listen, they just work harder than you. Like, you can beat them up. You can say that they're the bad guy, but the reality is you give up. They don't. So why do they have more bought deals? Because they work it till it's dead. Like they'll work that thing like you wouldn't believe. And to when I was talking about Pioneer the other day, and also groups like Approval Genie and others, which I believe a gentleman from Approval Genie was on that panel in Toronto. Yeah. Basically, I said, so 93% fails acceptable. He says, yeah, my sales guys, they just don't want to keep calling these people. I said, 93% fail? Like, man, I'd be hiring some people. Like, that's a lot.
They showed interest. They came to you.
93%.
You don't want to call them.
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh, listen. The amount, just being able to see the amount of leads that come in that don't get called. Oh. To be able to say, oh, we don't know what happened to this deal. No, we know exactly what happened to the deal. It's right there in the CRM. Yeah. The lead came in 2 days ago, and somebody sent it a text.
Yeah.
Like, one text. What happened is the lead ain't bad. the salesperson's bad.
Pretty much.
The lead
Pretty
don't
much.
suck.
Yeah.
I don't know who does.
Yeah, I mean, I managed an internet department, God, 15 years ago, but I took it over, maybe longer, maybe it was 18. And what amazed me when I took it over was there was no long tail process when I started. And then people all like, they all wanted to do the internet after a while because I kept selling like 40 cars a month or more. And they're like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, well, there's a 120-day process here. Phone call, email, maybe not text at that time. But it was like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, the person's telling me I want to buy something. So I'm going to chase those people. Like the money's in the chase. It's not in the one phone call, one text model, especially if they're subprime. I would think subprime requires more chasing, not less. Am I right?
And listen, especially for the independent dealers out there that are into non-prime, it's the bulk of their business, and they're maybe getting started. There's a lot of guys that over the years, guys and gals that we've done training with that have, you know, peeled out, gone on their own. They're independent dealers. They get 20, 30 cars on the lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have a good CRM system, you can track these trades. Like people are buying cars without putting their hands on them and test driving them now. And I got this one dealer, and he literally like sees the trade, hunts the customer, sells the trade. It's like this, you know, swap of inventory. It's just brilliant. But it all has to do with being able to data mine, you know, all of that information that's in that CRM. Being able to see, oh, we need a Corolla with 180K on it that we can retail for, you know, less than $8,000 to fit this very deep subprime customer. Well, we got somebody who we just need to pull out of that loan. And it's all CRM. It's all data. Huge for non-prime, huge.
100%. And for those of you who don't know Kim, she not only helps dealers with subprime, she also runs lots herself. So she's not just a person training this, she actually does it every single day. And I think that's not an attack on anyone who doesn't do that, but she knows what she's talking about. And my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but you got into that because you talked to some dealers and they just weren't listening. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, the consulting, which is still the bulk of my business, and the online courses and the CRM. Now that we're in more of an online space, you know, so much more training can be delivered without getting on a plane and going to dealerships. So I'm very grateful for that, because of that. It was very frustrating. And that's exactly why I got, you know, I started in the retail space. I've always done hands-on training in the dealerships. That continues today, where I'm working with customers, and, you know, do by showing, not telling is my motto. But, you know, because you got to deliver course content that actually, you know, works. Yeah, so I just love it. But it was getting very frustrating to be going into the dealerships, coming back, and say the same thing a million times, you know. So, but it's good. It's good to you know, get the call back and keep going back. And I used to sit there and I'd say, you guys can keep paying me to come back here and say the same thing over and over again, or we can get it this time.
Who would have thought? And obviously we got some economic factors all over the world these days, including some threats from both sides, and some comedy, obviously, because all this stuff looks to me like a Saturday Night Live skit. Just pick your party, pick your clown. But, you know, it's just kind of funny when you look at it and you see people like Volpe in Toronto who's speaking on behalf of the manufacturers. You got the bankers trying to figure out what to do because they're not sure. You got manufacturers going, what do I do here? I mean, what do you see the future of? I mean, I was talking to Dave Jackson the other day, and he said he thinks used car prices will actually go down in Canada because of export duties. He says he thinks there's going to be more used cars in Canada, and not only that, they're going to be worth less because people won't want to export them because it'll be too expensive. So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, what do you think that means to the dealer who says, hey, I thought I had a good beat on things, and now it's like chaos land? Like, what do you think? I mean, go ahead, Brandy. I mean, I know it's kind of a weird question, but go ahead.
Yeah, what is the question? Sorry, what do I?
What do you think a dealer needs to do better with uncertainty? I mean, I know car dealers pivot on a dime, but, you know, what do you think they really need to focus on? CRM, lead management, inventory. I mean, What do they need to really figure out in the short game with chaos?
You know what word has really struck me in all of the podcasts I've done this year since sponsoring is relationships. Relationships. It cannot be stressed enough. CRMs are great. Actually, that's exactly what Kim said. If you can have something that shows transparency in what your staff activity is, it is one thing that our system does as well, is using the system to communicate with the customer, tracks their activity on their profiles. So you can, exactly what Kim said, you can say, oh, I did this, and I can tell you that you didn't just by looking at those reports. But it's also, it isn't doing it just to do it. It isn't doing it just to do it. It's actually doing it so that you educate yourself on your client, understanding them 10 times better than they ever have been understood at any other dealership is so important. Do you know, I've done this so long, and I swear, probably 25 years ago, then people expected me to know everything that they purchased at my dealership when they walked in. They expected me to know what they did deals on. This is 25 years ago, they expected that. And here we are 25 years later, and we haven't quite mastered or even understood what they expect when they come in. And it's relationships. It cannot be stressed enough as AI is pushed more than ever. It's the relationships that are going to make you stand out. It's the work that you're going to put in, but it's also the tools that you're going to use that make you understand your client that much better.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd agree. If you're not controlling that experience and having something to say versus some of the cell phone companies who just want you to buy another phone, for example, if you're not prepared for that conversation, but more importantly, you're losing that existing customer, whether it be sales or service, or even in subprime, like you can have a conversation with someone who maybe made payments for the last 2 years if you know what's going on versus, hoping another one shows up. I mean, what do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, everything that's going on in the world right now, it's all, who knows what's going to happen. But one thing I do know that it is going to happen is credit is going to get worse, and used cars are going to need to continue to get sold to people, especially in rural communities that have to get to work, or the whole economy is going to explode. So if I was going to pick a place to be in auto, no offense, but I love where I'm sitting. Used cars, non-prime. And if you're a dealer that's still wondering, should I figure out my non-prime problem, which you absolutely have, you're absolutely losing sales. You just have to you could be using the crappiest CRM on the planet. As long as you're using it, you've got to track the amount of leads that you got coming in, the amount of people that you're actually selling vehicles, and the ones that you're not selling vehicles. Why are you not selling vehicles? I guarantee you're sitting on 15 to 25% of customers that didn't get approved or bought a vehicle and you couldn't get them approved, wasted so much time. So, if we were going to take a look at, what's coming in auto, I mean, the best place that I would go right now is I would invest in trying to figure out who are my customers that still need to buy vehicles. And if it's, I feel bad for the new car franchise dealers, but where I'd be focusing my attention right now is used cars and the people that, there's no season for non-prime. If you got bad credit and your car doesn't work and you have to get to work. So I would get really good at knowing what to do, how to market to this customer, building a relationship, having a strong CRM, and start moving that customer towards a new car purchase in the future when we figure out what the hell's going on with all these tariffs. This way, that way, I don't know, but guess what?
I like what you said there, though, because you said if they don't have a CRM, they may have a CRM. They may not have a CRM. And I think this is important to touch on, too, is if you don't have a CRM, even whether you have one or not, I feel like there's such a lack in investigating your client. I'm going to tell you, when I'm waiting for a deal, I'm not waiting. I'm Googling their name. I'm looking up their address. I want to see what house they live in. I want to see the neighborhood they live in. I'm doing my own investigation that, yes, you should be reporting into a CRM if you have it. But if you don't, you're investigating your client. Your confidence changes completely, at least on the prime side for sure, when you know the neighborhood they live in. And I feel like this is so sadly underutilized. We have the, lovely www, we should be utilizing what information we can get out of our people and out of our clients before they come in.
So what about that dealer who says, listen, I have a CRM, I don't like it, or I don't know how to use it, or why?
Oh, Brandy.
So why? I'm just curious, like, Brandy, why did you decide to do that? But more importantly, what's the, is it complicated? Because we know dealers are like, oh, this is too complex. So what do you think?
No, and you know what? So I decided to do it because I love CRM, but I hate entry. So when I started building, and it started off as a menu. Disclose started off as a menu. Then I was like, well, if you have to do menu, you're going to have to do vehicle inventory. So then I incorporated inventory. And then I'm like, if you have all these moving pieces, I really feel where most systems just in general lag is that connectivity of everything in one place. Yes. And so we actually incorporated CRM built right in. And why that's so important is, I can send a vehicle information sheet to a client. I can send what we call our pricing disclosure, our mechanical disclosure. Me sending it to the client actually tracks that activity. And so for me, it was like, yes, we love CRM, but what is wrong with the whole current process right now? It's exactly what Kim said. Unless you have it so that you're utilizing it and it's tracking that history, otherwise a CRM is truly only as good as its entry. And so, having, we ask a lot. I used to get really frustrated with staff and the process because we all have a job. If you do your job, I can do my job, and that's how it works. And so when I started building Disclose, as much as it was a menu, the menu was to help finance managers ensure that they offered every product every time with a process. Mm-hmm. And so, in that build, you recognize there are so many exterior influences that contribute to the success of it happening, to the success of the customer coming into my office and being in a good mood. Did service just piss them off? Did sales just piss them off not having the vehicle ready? All of these things kind of contributed to the moving parts. So when the build for Disclose was started, it was like, how do we make sure that, hey, if a client comes in, I can type in their name and I can literally not only see every note, but I can also see the vehicles that they actually requested information on. I have actually a spot in ours that's called household vehicles. So even if you didn't buy it from us or the dealership that you're at, you type in the vehicle under the client tab and it'll bring in all the household vehicles. This to me was, and I'm sure you remember, Kim, remember the old log sheets that were this long? And you wrote the customer's name down and you wrote their number and you wrote their trade if they had one. Well, 30 days later, if I need that trade and that deal didn't happen, I'm flipping through the logbook to find out what vehicles they had. And that to me was so important to incorporate into Disclose. Just even the search of, hey, wait, who had that unit? I've got somebody on a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland, white on brown. I know. Who is it? All you have to type in is Overland and it'll bring up all your clients that actually even have it in their household, whether they bought it from you or not. And for me, it was, so many moving parts that really were so important to each other. What that client expects when they come into our store is everything that we kind of put in paper and all of that tracking. They expect you to know what a big deal they are. And so this profile sheet, it spits out exactly how much the client has not only spent in your store, but how much time they've wasted. Did they start 8 deals and didn't finish 1? Did they, you know what I mean? It gives you insight. And I really think that's probably the most important thing, regardless of the position you're in, is to just really know the client and have the tools that actually explain the client that much more.
Interesting. So Kim, I mean, obviously you played with some software, whether it be CDK or others, whether it be obviously Disclose is probably a good thing for you to get a demo of. What's your opinion on what's missing with a lot of these products?
That's a great question. In non-prime, what's missing is the management of the lead, not the deal. And so I just, with one of the franchise dealerships that I'm working now, they're dealing with a DMS system, and the DMS system is PBS, but it doesn't manage leads like we need to manage leads, right? So that's the only reason why I offer a lead management software program with our training And with the total understanding that what will probably happen within a 3 to 6 month period, if the dealership has something comparable, is that they'll see the CRM that we use in non-prime and manipulate or try to, if it's possible, whether it be CDK, PBS, disclose, like it, because there's so much on the traditional side for CRMs, but there's not very many options for non-prime. And the sales process pipeline and how you work a lead is completely different. So I'm not in the business of CRM. I'm in the business of getting people started recording what they're doing from a coaching side of things. And so I call the program that I use Sell Smart CRM. But it's always my hope, you know, I'm in the training business. It's always my hope that they'll move to one unit in their dealership, one something. As long as they're putting the information in, you know, that's on those big companies to pitch or sell, you know, what works for those dealerships. But in my experience, I have not yet seen a DMS system that can manage non-prime, certainly in the way that it needs to be. The lead needs to be managed before there's a deal, before there's inventory. It's like that lead comes in and you need to get in touch with it before 5 minutes. And if I'm coaching you and you're the dedicated non-prime finance manager at a dealership, I need to be able to see what the problem is like right away. Well, the problem is you didn't contact the lead in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You took 2 days. And that's a real live, that's a real life, that kills deals. The time kills the deal. In our world, you know, I can't speak for Prime, but we can have customers. That customer, if they're shopping today, as soon as they get money to buy a vehicle, they're buying it. So we've got to track it, get on top of it right away, and track, and then not be caught up in the what happened to that deal. We don't make it a deal in the DMS system because it brings up too many issues in the dealership. What happened to that deal? It's like, guys, the guy doesn't have a job. Doesn't have a job. I know you see a green button there and you think there's a deal. There's not. Doesn't have a job. Now, if somebody had updated the notes on this file, y'all would be remembering that 3 months ago, this guy didn't have a job. We can call him and find out if he has a job now, or somebody that loves him that can be on the loan. Probably doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, lead management was always key, but more importantly, when you're looking at subprime, and you'd be a more expert than me, but it's not only in that initial sale, it's on how do I manage my existing customers that maybe I switch up vehicles because they're now paying people, they now transitioned, right?
Yes, the lead gen companies will tell you this. If you're buying leads, you're going to convert them at 10%. And I still think that's a bunch of horse shit. It's probably closer to 6 to 7%, if we're all being honest here. So that means in order for me to, you know, sell 10 cars, I'm at least talking to 100 people, of which probably 20% of them I just simply cannot get approved for whatever reason. You know, not enough time on the job, not enough money, no co-applicant, you know, whatever the deal is. And then we have to get over the regular traditional objections, which I don't like that car, I don't like the color, you know, whatever the situation is. So it's a lot of managing and tracking people, and the communication and the chasing. Like the absolute, you know, prime customer comes in, buys a vehicle, you're not collecting necessarily pay stubs, driver's license, the first form. You're like, we got a list, you know, it's like the Santa Claus list. Well, you better have something tracking that. You got tick buttons and check marks and holy Jesus.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated deal. Yeah, a little more complex.
You get a driver's license. I don't know. Nobody seems to know if we got a driver's license. I just look, I see nobody collected the driver's license. What is going on here? It's like Brandy says, you need it. And yes, I would love to see disclosure, but disclosure, right? Disclose.
So we do disclosure. You know, funny, that word really scares dealers. And I always have to stop them and say, it's not for you, it's not for your salesperson or person, it's for your client.
Yeah, they love that word.
We use a system called disclose.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Customer, I know you said you were paying cash, but my job is to actually show you all the ways to pay for it, and then you can make an informed decision. You know, it's about controlling that conversation. So, and I'd love to show it to you, by the way.
Yes.
Speaking of, actually, you just mentioned that. You know, one of the things that our system does when you're either in the client or within a deal is I can send a request to the client by email. So I can say, hey, I'm going to send you a link. When you get a chance, go ahead and open that link. Take a picture of your pay stub. Take a picture of your void check. It drives it right back into the deal and into the client's profile. There's no chasing. There's no, hey, this link was sent and it hasn't been fulfilled yet, you know? So it's the little things that all make time easier. And I agree, you know, to have everything in one spot, obviously the reason I did it, but it's a tall ask. It's a tall ask for us to expect people to sell the car, show it, you know, do their own marketing, drum up their own leads. Then you have to do 3 different logins just to even close off a deal. And it's big.
Listen, I see dealerships spending exorbitant amounts of money on CRM, tracking system, DMS, trade appraisee, leads coming in this way, that way, and we got 100 million logins. And then in one of the dealerships I'm working with right now, they're using a spreadsheet. I'm like, what's the spreadsheet for? Oh, this is to track the leads. I'm like, well, doesn't this one, or that one that you're already paying for, doesn't one of those systems track the leads, right?
We have a saying, it's hashtag no more spreadsheets. No more spreadsheets. Because here's the thing also, you have how many people have access to that spreadsheet that anybody can manipulate.
Yes.
You know, you get that one notice at the end, you know, right before month end, and everybody update the spreadsheets. The manager's going to be looking. Yeah.
Scary. It's truly scary. And then you end up beating down if you're managing a department at all. You know, I feel for the sales managers because you can only ask the question so many times. What's going on with that deal to be, you know, responded with the same, you know, and I can't even call it BS. It's, you know, because what are you going to say? You have to track this information. You have to track it somewhere. But just my opinion.
So when you're looking at software and you're looking at AI and everything else, you look at the future of this, and I agree simplicity is the way. I mean, you look at cloud-based solutions seem to be the future. Obviously, the days of Unix and Reynolds and the blue screen of death or whatever that was, it's probably in the past. But I mean, what do you think the future is? You see how these things, you know, are moving forward quickly. I mean, what do you think the future of it is? Whoever wants to start, I'm good with either way. Go ahead, Kim. Give us the future.
This future of CRMs.
Crystal ball. Yeah. Where's this all going?
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of CRMs take on AI and automations and And I do see some value in that. Mainly, the value that I see is being able to reach the customer very quickly when a human being just either by way of time is not doing it fast enough, or like time or capacity, or maybe short staffness, or doesn't want to. But then I'm completely with Brandy on, we've got to bring back relationships. We all went through this period of time with COVID where, especially in auto, deals were landed. We're seeing salespeople right now that are used to taking orders. The relationship build isn't there. And so I think the CRMs of the future need to accommodate for both. They need to make it easy, time effective, cost effective, have some automation, but make it easier and quicker for me to build relationships with the people that in my side of the world can buy a vehicle, you know, can get approved to purchase a vehicle, and then all of that time spent in the beginning, you know, potentially with good automation and good AI, like you've got to, you know, crap in, crap out, I like to say. So, you know, my lead management software, I don't like to refer to it necessarily as a CRM, but in nonprime, because we've been feeding it the data for so many years, just in scripting now, the AI automation is pretty good. It's going to be what I'm going to say, because there's only 2 or 3 things that I'm going to say in the first few, you know, interactions with the customer. We can we can AI generate a lot of that, automate a lot of that, so that the time, is a lot quicker and we can do more to get to the relationship piece. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
I think you did a pretty good job. There's no crystal ball there, but I wasn't expecting you to pop out a prop. But go ahead, Brandy.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more, actually. And with anything, the success lies in the consistency in what you're doing. And so, the one thing I love lately is, especially when I talk to people, it's whether I have customers that don't even have a DMS and they're asking if I have AI, you know what I mean? Which we do, but it's like baby steps. Let's just start with the baby steps. I know AI is the buzzword right now, but if we focus on exactly what Kim says, focusing on getting the client in, maintaining the client, the lead gen side of that, managing your leads, because leads turn into sales if they're done properly. Yes. And so I do find it interesting on the F&I side that, because I do a lot of I have done a lot of contract work, is usually F&I is not involved in a CRM, which is crazy. We've depended on the sales transfer of trust. But the number one place we should be looking at, whether it's prime or non-prime, is the history, understanding that client. If you actually want to find them the best approval, I don't know how many prime business managers I've trained, and I will ask them, who's the customer banking with? And they don't know. You're not just filling out the spots on an application. You are actually interviewing the client to get out of them what you need to get them the best deals. So to me, it's right. It starts there. It's really is the interview. I could do an interview without an app, and that, there's a reason. It's because I know what I'm after. Yes. It's not just because it's a box on my form, right? So,
and that's true of salesmanship. We don't see that, and we're not seeing a whole lot of that anymore. Sales has become this pitch,
COVID changed it,
right? And it's funny because I had somebody say to me in the dealership, we were working a deal together, this person I was training, and she was like, man, you see things, you know what I mean? You're seeing the whole picture. And I'm like, yes. You want to know, because what I'm trying to do is solve somebody's problem. They've got a problem, my job to solve it. Hopefully by way of getting them into an automobile, but there's roadblocks along the way. And just like Brandy's saying, if you've got all of that information after you've gathered all of that information, even if it's a shared process, you got the salespeople, the finance managers, salespeople, everybody should be inputting what they know. Joe and Susan came in, they're pregnant, they got 3 kids, 2 of them play hockey. You know what I mean? It's put all that shit in there, because if I'm the finance manager and I'm about to convert them, maybe from a cash deal to a finance deal, I might pull something out of, who knows, it might be related to hockey and how expensive that is. And, it can be I don't know, cash, I don't know, we can't do cash, but anyway, there's something I'm going to say.
Right, though.
Right?
You're so right, though, is the more that you know about them and what you don't think matters, and this is the problem with many salespeople, is, that wasn't important. They make assumptions on the important information, and honestly, it's all important. I want to hear everything. I want to hear your talk. I want to hear what you talked about. I want to hear, exactly that. Do they have pets? Do they park in their garage? Do they, the things that matter in investigating the client is so important.
Love it.
Wow.
Love it.
It's a hell of a show. Even without Larry coming in, he was there briefly. Anyway, so literally we got final thought time now. So I guess the final thoughts from the two mavericks here on the female side of the car business, the real superpower people in the business. What do you think? I mean, what's your final thought to a car who says, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with Subprime, or I don't know what to do with the CRM. I don't know how to sell things. How do I get my guys and gals to do the job? How do I get them to enter stuff and use it? How do I do that?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Brandy?
You took the words out of my mouth. That is a loaded question. How much more time do we have?
You got another 6 minutes, so you can save the world in 6 minutes.
Well, I think it's just getting started. That would be my short answer. You just got to get started somewhere. As far as non-prime goes, you need to know what to do, and then you need to be shown how to do it. We can easily help out with that. I will send some information over to Ian, and I'll do a special promo
Details
on
below.
secrets, online secrets for non-prime. It's an online on-demand course, and I can figure out how to get that to some viewers' hands. But you know, you got to get started somewhere, and you got to track these leads. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to sell any cars. So,
92% loss is not a good ratio.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
No
Brandy.
loss.
92% didn't call those people.
No. Honest to God, that's the biggest problem. You want to know, as a consultant, what dealers pay me the most to do is go in and say, call your leads. Phone?
Do you know how to use a telephone? No? Okay, we should teach you that. That's a good skill to know.
Can you call your leads, please?
Yeah. Can you respond when someone says, I'm interested in something? Yeah. Not so much. Brandy, what do you think?
I don't know.
You got 5 minutes.
Nismo Nick kind of mentioned something when I watched that little blurb the last time, and he said, you know, I'm just lucky enough to, you know, go and demo some cars and then talk about what I love. And I feel like, you know, there is, to get into the auto industry, I was by default. I literally started as a receptionist at a dealership, was into the business office within under 3 months, and didn't look back. And so, but I've always had a passion for the industry. I love it. I breathe it. I bleed it, and I eat it. And here's the thing: if you don't have that, am I wrong, Kim? If you're working with somebody that just doesn't have it in them, you do have to start with the passion to make any of this stick, any of it, period. I do love the idea. If you've started with a spreadsheet, we can work with that. We have bulk upload. So go ahead, start with your spreadsheet. You know, we could do freebies even just to get you going. But I agree, Kim, you do have to start. And not yesterday, not even the day before, but a week ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out that Nismo Nick interview, he's a Nissan fanboy that I hear actually Honda and Nissan are back in talks, so we'll see what happens there. But he's just passionate about Nissans. He sold 96 Nissan Zs in 1 month. And Nissan USA was like, how'd you do that?
Beat the province.
He's like, I was selling them at MSRP. Everyone else was marking them up. So I started buying it from those guys and then selling it retail. And he's in Arizona and he was selling them all over the US. So it's kind of interesting. But he's just passionate about what he does. And now he's got a new problem, which is, you know, Nissan wants him to be at SEMA. Nissan wants to send him free performance stuff for his car. He's just a car person who happens to sell cars. He says, it's not work for me. I talk to people about Nissans and they buy them. It's all good. It's not really a surprise, but I agree 100%.
And I think you touched something though. In my experience, I understood credit. I worked for AmeriCredit, Travelers, TD, RBC. I love it. I actually want to show you how to get to that next level. I want to, you know, my victory comes in an auto snap on something that should have been subprime. And I got it done prime because I understood the algorithm, right? So yeah, you do have to love it. The passion has to be there for you to even want to. The passion is required for the want to happen, for sure.
Fantastic.
And CRM is all about being better.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you got to be looking at those small improvements. One of the quotes that I heard this year, which I think it was earlier this year or maybe last year, was don't focus on the big rocks. Focus on the small rocks. The big rocks, you know, you'll get there. But if you're focused, you can't get the gravel handled, you got a big problem. Like, you know, get that handled first, like basic stuff. And we're talking basic, like call the lead, text the lead, do it quickly. Like, you know, that's where so much of the deals are lost. It really is. Everybody's focused on these big issues, and what, from a consulting training standpoint, what we're fixing is basic shit. Hi, welcome to the dealership. I'm Kim, and you are. Follow me. Take a seat. I interviewed a guy. He has a product called Cloud X, and product's not interesting, but it's powerful because it's about fixing the accounting side for vendor pay. And he said he has dealers that are so focused on the points on their credit card that they're giving all these people their credit card and have no idea what's going on with it. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we fixed that problem. I'm like, you probably fixed a bunch of other problems too, right? Because like, who knows where that credit card went, right? But it's about the points. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's about the points.
Shit.
Anyway, thanks for
Same
coming
here.
on. I really appreciate it. That CloudX interview will be up soon. If you haven't checked out the Nismo Nick interview, you should definitely do that. And if you're in the service drive on Friday, we're doing a show on sell everyone tires. Let me repeat that again. Sell everyone tires. You want to retain service customers, do that every single freaking time. It's not about making money. It's about selling them tires. Thanks very much. Have yourself a great week. Here we go.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Yep.
Let's connect.